our DNVR.
It's 11 p.m. on February 18th, 2011. The Colorado Avalanche have quietly been burning the midnight oil working on a blockbuster trade call that would send rookie defenseman Kevin Shattenkirk and rising forward Chris Stewart to the St. Louis Blues in return for former first overall pick Eric Johnson and veteran forward Jay McClement, as well as a pick swap for both teams. They didn't know it at the time, and it would take years for this to come to fruition and success for both teams, but this would ultimately set both of these teams up to win a Stanley Cup. This is the Eric Johnson trade tree. There you go. Go check out the EJ Trade Tree video. You can find it on our YouTube channel right now. It's live. And spoiler alert, it's a little bigger than what I showed right there. But go check it out. It's a cool little video if you're into that type of thing. Also, kind of topical to today. It shows how moves years prior can have a significant impact on a team's future, which is what we're getting into. Going to be a lot of speculation today about where the Colorado Avalanche will stand 3 years from today and what that might look like. So, take everything with a grain of salt, but I do think it'll be an interesting conversation to see how the Avs get through the next 3 years. I'm sure there will be people that lean on the optimistic side, on the pessimistic side, and we'll do our best to land somewhere in between, but we'll see exactly how we feel about the next 3 years as it stands today. Before we get into that, though, we do have a few news items from today. Number one being the Avs actually signed a guy. Yeah, it's a college free agent, but Alex Gagne gets signed to a 2-year deal coming out of New Hampshire University. He is a left shot, 6'5" defenseman. Big dude. I know you saw him play a couple times against Boston or otherwise this year. Can you give us any insights on this guy?
Yes, but first and foremost, hopefully you guys had a good weekend, you and Tiff. And it's funny on the EJ trade tree, as you know, a big part of I was working in management at that time, and it's so funny because people used to be mad, like, oh, 11 o'clock at night. There's a reason why it's 11 o'clock at night. God, one day we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like,
it's some people know it's out there. The reason has been floated around out there.
no, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like they had a game, their manager wasn't with them. The plane broke down, they didn't land, and we were in California. It's like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Anyway, not here to defend it, but you know what I mean. We'll talk about that. That was a great piece, by the way. Go check it out. Rudo's piece is awesome. Um, on top of that, Alex Gagne. It's funny that they saw that today because when I go see college games, as you know, just because I see a lot during the season as DU, and then if I'm in the Boston area, I'm always going to go obviously watch Max's team, and so I remember watching him a couple times this year, UNH, the Wildcats, and they weren't a very good team this year, and um, but I remember was in the playoffs towards the end of the season. Anyway, I was at BU. And Tommy Fitzgerald, the GM of the New Jersey Devils, former Avs, uh, his son plays at UNH. We were talking, and I remember asking Tommy about this dude, number 28 on D, that was so annoying because he was bugging me. You know what I mean? Kind of like that Bishop for the Dallas
Sure.
series. Remember, he was like he was getting on my nerves, which is a good thing, right? But a noticeable, and I was like, "Who is this dude? He's a giant. He's starting to annoy me." And then Fitzy was laughing, and he's telling me a little bit about his background, meaning like he wasn't going to get signed, and he's a draft pick of where San Jose is he? I don't remember who he's
Tampa.
drafted by, but Tampa didn't get signed, obviously. No, the Avalanche, now that it's past August 15th, you know what I mean, of your senior year, which he captained the last couple years, but a big guy, I think more meat potato guy uh, than a skill guy. Obviously, at the collegiate level, he played a little bit out of place. When I say, as you guys know, you got to know what you are. I think in college, he saw some PP and things that he's not going to see. I believe in the American League level. You know what I mean? So I think it was more like he was a leader. He certainly was involved every game. Like I said, both games I saw, and I walked away, like I said, trying to find out a little bit more about the guy. And it's funny because today when I saw that, I was like, huh. That's funny. You know, I had my scouting hat on this year a couple times, just looking around. It's funny. So the eyes caught, obviously, Mike Battaglia and Neil Shea, guys in the Boston area, that collegiate level free agents, or saw something that I saw the same thing. You know what I mean? Because I noticed them, right? We always say, get noticed, right? Get
Yep.
noticed for the right reasons. Don't get noticed delivering a pizza down the middle, but, I mean, get noticed for the right reasons. And this guy, I noticed him for the right reasons. I have to, and again, I'm not familiar with him. I'm not familiar with his background. I'm not familiar with other than the two games that I saw. But this is a guy I do believe that can play at the obviously American League level, and who knows where it can go. Like kind of like Kempf and Cornell, right? You know what I mean? The big fella that we saw at development camp. So who knows where you can take your game? Who knows how long it takes you to get to your game, the pro game, the consistency of the pro game, the simplicity of the pro game. But this is a guy again that if he understands that and makes the first 6 foot pass and can be physical in front of the net and use his reach and his tentacles, right? You know what I mean? It's not about fighting. I couldn't tell you if he's tough. I have no idea. It's college hockey. There's no fighting, but it's more like he's got good size, good range. So you never know. Maybe they found something. Maybe they saw something. Obviously, this is not someone you're going to see at the start of the year in the Avalanche lineup, but obviously, maybe another example of the cupboard is pretty empty. Now this is another guy that can come in at 23 and play in the American League level, and not an 18-year-old kid that you might not see at the pro level for a couple years. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Kind of a fun little signing, and we'll see where it leads to.
Yeah, I do think there are two sides to this coin. One, this is not the free agent caliber of signing that I think. Don't overhype this guy is what I would tell people, because
Yeah.
yes, he's in the system. Maybe he becomes something, maybe he doesn't, but he's not even to the level of a Malinsky or a Ben Myers. This is not a guy that is very likely to be pushing for NHL time, even at any point this season, if we're honest about it. He had a 17-point year. His skill set isn't designed for that. This is a guy that's going to need to get into some pro games and get adjusted to pro hockey. And maybe it works out, and maybe we're talking about him as a guy in a couple of years. But I don't expect to see him, barring significant injury, this season in the NHL.
And I should
Go
just
ahead.
rephrase too. Again, drafted by Tampa. I said wasn't signed by Tampa. It might have been by choice as well. So I don't want to take
Yeah.
that away from. It might have been by his choice. Maybe Tampa wanted to sign him. And again, I'm not gonna speculate here. But a lot of times, the kid, you wait till August 15th of your senior year because you get to choose wherever you want to go, right? And
Yep.
that's how you hit free agency. Or you were told a month or two ago or 6 months ago that they weren't going to sign you, but you still got to wait till August 15th to announce a deal that's been reached. If you signed a deal with an NHL team. So again, either or, get on the kid gets an NHL deal. So congratulations.
Well, maybe a bit of a savvy move by the kid too, because the other thing there is there aren't many teams that are short on left-handed D in the NHL. The Avs are one of them. The Avs are one of the few
Yeah.
organizations that might need some left-handed D. Yes, they do have some other prospects, and this is who he's going to be in direct competition with for time in the AHL and maybe a call-up spot are guys like Sean Barons. Now, they
Mhm.
provide two different things, right? This makes sense for the Avs in a lot of ways because they need bigger defensemen. They love
Yeah.
guys that have a little bit of that defensive D edge. That's what they're going to want to see out of Gagne. The other side of this is super, super precursory. Don't read too much into this. The few highlights I've watched, he does seem like a pretty good skater for someone his size. So that fits the Avalanche
Mhm.
model as well. So I do think there is reason to believe there's a good fit here with Gagne, but I do think it'll take a little bit. If I was rating it today, I would say Sean Barons has an inside line on him to be the first left-handed defensive call-up, and even that comes after, Keith Middleton is going to be ahead of these guys on the depth chart. If the Avs end up signing any other pro-level players, they're going to be ahead of these guys on the depth chart. But in honor of today's show, or in line with today's show, I should say, another left-handed big D, someone they feel like maybe could fill a role there. Does that make it easier for them to potentially move on from a Sam Malinsky or one of their extra right-handed D to make room for a lefty?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably like down the road, like you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
yeah.
I don't think you would do this. Like you just said, it's not for this year. I think a signing like that today is more for um, replenish and see where it can lead to, and where can he take you, right? You know what I mean? Can he take you somewhere where you know all of a sudden you found something and it cost you nothing. You never wasted a pick on him. You never wasted a trade. You never, you know what I mean? It's basically, like I said, a free agent signing. Even though, like I said, might have been by choice from the kid or it might have been by choice from Tampa. Nonetheless, it's something that's cost you nothing to try and get a 6'5" guy. And like I said, it's funny because obviously Mike and Neil obviously saw something as well. Like you do notice him. People will notice him. Like he can skate. He jumps in the. I mean, he goes. I'm not saying that's going to be his forte, but when you can skate, that's half the battle in the National Hockey League, right? You know what I mean? Retrieve pucks. If you can't skate, you're in trouble, right? So this guy can skate. I'm not saying he's going to skate and jump up on the offense like Kel McCarr. I'm saying that he can skate, and that's a nice attribute to have. And then he does have size. If he can just, like I said, figure out the simplicity of the game, the consistency of the game, who knows where it can lead for him.
Yeah, it's an opportunity, and for what it's worth, over the past decade or so, Tampa Bay has been one of the best late round drafting franchises in the NHL. So, picking up one of their late round draft picks, maybe not a terrible idea for the Avs to jump on that bandwagon. Still a long way to go, though. It'll be interesting. I definitely a guy I have pinned in the back of my head when training camp rolls around, though, to see what it looks like. So, something. The Avs haven't signed a ton of guys this off season, but someone to talk about at least a little bit on that front for the Avs. I tweeted this question out yesterday, and I wanted to get your answer on it. Are the Avs better as a team, offensively or defensively?
Well, that's a great question. And I saw that Kiefer reacted to your tweet too, I think, saying like, "Oh, they're both," you know what I mean? But I get it.
I
I
think
agree
he's
with him.
right. They are both. That's
He's
why I
right. Yeah,
asked.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah. But if you're like telling me, no, but you got to take one, that's part of the rules, you got to take one. Here's my answer. It's a sophisticated answer, but I'm going to go defensively because I think the day the Avs learned how to check, learned LEARNED, like past tense, learned, which was, probably past the Vegas series back then. You know what I mean? They won the Stanley Cup, right? Because I think you have to know that you have to be able to check. You have to be able to without taking and I don't think this is where the apps coaching staff do a good job. They're not taking away their creativity. They're not taking away their craftiness and their, again, like we say, they're artists, right? So they're tools to manufacture something. But you are asked as an Avalanche to be conscious and to be above pucks and to always know that you're checking on the correct side of things, that you are doing the right things to make sure that you get out of your zone quickly. And that doesn't mean that you're playing defensively. No, that means that go have fun in the playground, which is the offensive zone. So you want to get out of the structured zone, which is the defensive zone, and then go play in the playground. So I think that's why my answer is defensively, because I think the way when they learn that they have to check, then that's why I would say defensively. And I do believe it's, again, their Avalanche's D course. Somebody was saying about the NHL Network, was it last week or somebody was it Thomas Hickey or they're talking about like, it's a top defensive unit in the National Hockey League. I'm not arguing. I do believe they have a great, 6-7 on the back end, whatever you want to call that. So I do believe defensively is the answer. And of course, Kale puts up 90 points as a defenseman, and we have Nathan McKinnon that's gotten 140 points 2 years ago. So of course, there's a lot of offense. But my answer would be defensively.
I agree with you, and I think this is something that has evolved over the last couple of years, but I do need to hit our first break before we jump into that conversation. So let's make sure we're paying our bills here and getting our job done. Is our ad reads offensive or defensive? I don't know. I don't know which one to call it. Either way, whether you're on offense or defense with your money, make sure you're getting Monarch Money. We know finances can always be messy and confusing, but Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances at any time, anywhere, any place. It's more than your average budgeting app. It's your complete financial command center with your accounts, investments, and goals all wrapped into it. And you don't have to just manage your money. You can start building wealth with 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DNVR. You can jump in with them and start saving up for the things that really matter in life, or you can just track maybe what subscriptions you're using. Anywhere in between. That's what Monarch Money does for you. They were rated the best budgeting app of 2025 by the Wall Street Journal, and they've been given a 5-star review by over 30,000 people. So jump in. Financial stress is one of the biggest problems across the country, and Monarch Money makes those conversations easier. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money and use code DNVR at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DNVR. And then when you've saved a little bit of extra money and maybe you're looking to have some fun playing some sports, or you just want some different ways to exercise, hit up Volo. Volo is Denver's most popular provider of adult social sports leagues, pickup games, and events. You can do it all with them. Tons of different sports. Kickball. I'm in a kickball league in September, so that's fun. But you can also play soccer, volleyball, pickleball, basketball, cornhole, bunch of other stuff too. It's a great way to meet new people, make new friends, or just stay active in a fun way. Something different that you can do all over the city, whether it be Lodo, Rhino, Highland, City Park, Cherry Creek, South Broadway, and more. And even if you're not in Denver, if you're in any significantly populated area, there's a very good chance that Volo has a chapter near you. So go check them out. If you are here in Denver, you can sign up as a free agent, small group, or entire team at any ability level and background. Just make sure you use code DNVR10 at checkout for $10 off any Denver Volo sports league. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I think there is, I don't know if it was necessarily a meaningful shift or just the way things played out post Stanley Cup, but we saw the Avs step into, especially in their depth, and honestly, even in their Cup year, some of the moves they made was to bolster their depth, not necessarily with punch, but with defensive acumen. And you look at where they stand now. The return of Gabe Landeskog helps them greatly on the defensive side with their forward core. But also, when they acquired Lehkonen in the Cup year, that helped them. Nichushkin has actually trended a little bit down defensively, but a quality defensive forward. That's all great, but then you look at their bottom six, and you look at what they've added. The Parker Kellys, the Jack Drurys. Logan O'Connor was obviously there already, but even someone like a Ross Colton has a surprisingly effective defensive side to his game, and we've seen the Avs commit to that in their forward core to a level that they really hadn't had done before. I think even in their Cup year, they still had guys like Burakovsky that they were leaning on to outscore some of their problems rather than play actual high-quality defense in their bottom six. And yes, Burakovsky did play on their third line pretty regularly. I know people think he's a top six guy here, and he was sometimes, but he was also a third liner. Their defense, I think, speaks for itself. Obviously, Makar and Taves are great on both ends. Girard and Manson, sure, they've had their problems as a pairing. There are issues there, but their underlying defensive metrics are very, very good as individuals. And then the bottom pairing has been a little bit more in flux of late, whether you have a Johnson down there or you're adjusting to someone like a Malinsky or you're playing a Middleton or whatever it is. I do think there are some question marks there, but Brent Burns probably not going to add to the 5v5 defense, but should be a very good penalty killer for the Avs. They've just leaned into a lot of assets and signings, bringing back Kiviranta. Lots of stuff has led to their defensive floor getting higher, more so than maybe their offensive ceiling.
I agree. And again, it's the old saying, defense wins championships, which it's hard to argue with because it does. It does. You usually have a good goalie, usually a very conscious, defensive minded team. You also always have some very high end two-way guys, 200-foot players that they call, right? So I think in order to win, we've seen it over the years. You can't just have 50 goal scorers and then hope that, you all score your problems. People keep knocking down Edmonton. It's always the same question, and it's funny because I think their metrics are really good defensively, right? You know what I mean? It's like they've checked the last couple years. There's a
More of a
reason they went to the
goaltender
Stanley
problem
Cup.
there. Yeah.
But that's my point. I am not here to bash Stu. You know what I mean? I'm saying, but I think the Edmonton Oilers do defend. You know what I mean? Like the Avalanche. Like they defend, and I think if you sometimes you just have to talk to some coaches around the league, right? You know what I mean? And then you just kind of, which is fun, which I get to do at morning skates, right? Which is nice. And, you sit and then you see old friends and an assistant coach, and then they ask you questions. And it's funny because right away, it's always like, boy, those guys know how to play. Like they play the right way, right? It's always the way you hear, right? The Avalanche play the correct way. They play the right way. They know how to check. They know how to defend. They're always above pucks. Like it's not, it's not a cakewalk. You're not gonna get anything for free, right? We all know they make mistakes. That's every team, and we seem to talk about it all the time. But I think the Avs had a goaltending problem, right? When they were making 3, 4 mistakes a night, then there was 3 goals in, and you're like, everybody was like, "Oh my God, they made a mistake." No, no crap. Every team makes mistakes. You know what I mean? That's why you have a goalie, right? But I do believe that the teams like the Avalanche that are aspiring to win the Stanley Cup are excellent defensive teams. You know what I mean? And you have to be. And I think that's where the disconnect. There is no disconnect between coaching staff and players. I think that there's been a buy-in there, like you said, with Gabe and McKinnon to a certain extent, right? And Kale, and there's a certain standard here. Devon talks about it all the time, and then the connection to from the coaches to the front office. If there's one guy that can talk about this is Joe, right? Super Joe. Getting 130 points in Quebec and they're dead last, and or you're gonna go and get 110 points in Colorado, and win, right? I mean, there's a certain way to do it. There's a certain way. You hear the word cheat all the time, and I'm not saying Joe was cheating, but I'm sure he'll tell you that he was cheating early in his career. You know what I mean? 'Cause you're gonna get more cookies, more points that way. But at the end of the day, it's gonna affect the overall team and the wins and losses, which is the most important thing. So I think there's a balance there, and I think the Avalanche have it. That's one of their strengths in my book. I think that's one of the strengths of their coaching staff. And there's a reason the coaching staff's been there 10 years now. There's a reason for that because at the end of the day, there's a buy-in from the coaching staff to the front office to the players. It's one big continuity line.
Yep. I would agree. Let's move on to our main topic and let's start talking about some of those players. If we look 3 years into the future, it's August of 2028. Here are the players that would be signed through that date that would still be Avs based on contract. You have Nathan McKinnon. You have 1 year left of Gabe Landeskog, Val Nichushkin, Logan O'Connor, Parker Kelly, and Devon Taves. And Mackenzie Blackwood, too. Almost skipped over the goalies. Do you think all of them are still Avalanche players in August of 2028?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if you want to go names or but
Yeah, go for it.
well, obviously Nate and Mac would be the guys that would have by then have signed a new contract. But I do believe for the first and foremost, the one that jumps at you right there is Val Matushkin. In my book,
Okay.
that would be the first guy that uh, I think there will be a nothing to do with what we've seen the last few years or what the organization or he went through. But I do believe that big body and it's been a lot of injuries. All of a sudden, I always say that once the body starts giving out, it just does. And I think that he wouldn't be as effective, and it would be costly on the salary cap. You know what I mean? Even though it's not the end. What is he at? 6.5, whatever he is.
Six point
But
one.
I
Yeah.
do believe he. Yeah, I bet you. I bet that would be the guy that wouldn't be here in my book.
Okay.
That sticks out. That changes the lineup today is a different lineup with Val in it. We all know that, and Val without it. I think that 3 years from now, I think you'd have to get used to a lineup without it.
All right. I think that's a fairly reasonable pick, but let's talk about the guys that aren't already signed through 2028, 29 here. That includes Brock Nelson. We'll kind of go one by one here. Nelson would be 36 at that point. Not unreasonable that he's at the end of his career, is not staying with Colorado at that point. The big one, though, Marty Necas. Is Marty Necas part of the Colorado Avalanche in 2028?
Um, I'm gonna give you my answer, and I think I've been pretty open about this. I like Marty. You guys know I like him as a player. I think you'd have to be. I mean, whatever. I'm not gonna judge people's taste, but he is a fun hockey player to watch, and I enjoy that. Now, do I think he's here? No.
Okay.
And the reason is I'll stick to my answer that I don't think he's here next year, but I'm not saying I just feel that it's complicated. That's it. That is nothing towards the front office or nothing towards his agent or it's more like I just feel that it's always been complicated and I just feel it's going to keep being complicated until he really makes the choice of freedom, which is free agency and goes wherever he feels that he wants to go and not dictated by the system, a trade or a draft and again, that's just my opinion. I'm sure he's a good dude. I hope he's not listening to this and looks at me sideways. I'm just saying, if you're asking me, that's the guy flagrantly that I feel wouldn't be there.
All right. Let me contrast that then with a guy who maybe it isn't so complicated with. Arturi Lehkonen. His contract ends at the end of 2027, and he would be a free agent at age 32. Is that a guy you bring back, no questions asked?
For me, the way it's going and the way he plays the game, I think this is a guy that they would extend, but before he gets to his last year, at that time, and again, we're always talking in the future right now. It's a no-brainer in my book. I think he seems to be a simple dude, you know what I mean? And he plays a simple game. Again, he's mastered I was just talking about Alex Gagne there. He's mastered the art of the simple play. And he does it
Yep.
to a T. Like he does it to perfection. And that's why he's a hot commodity. And that I don't think he's ever going to change the way he plays the game. Um, and again, he's not the most physical guy, and I think his body's going to hold up. I do believe that this is a guy that you would find a way to extend there before he gets out of town, and to stick around for a little while. That's again, that would be my thought process.
One more guy I want to talk about. There are some other smaller pieces, Jack Drury's, etc., that might or may not be here in the future. I don't think we need to get that into the weeds on it, but a guy I have to ask about, Sam Girard. Is he staying in Av, or is it time to move on when his contract is up at the end of 2027?
Well, here's my take on it. And again, people are gonna maybe disagree with me.
I,
Um,
I don't know
I
if
think
anyone
this.
agrees about anything with Sam Girard, to be fair. So.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, and you guys know I love Sammy, and he's one of my favorites, and he's a good hockey player. Um, I do believe he's still here. I do believe he ends up staying here. I do believe you're talking about simplicity, simple guy. You're from, I'd be like northern part of Quebec, where Goose from, right? Saguenay. Yeah, simple life, you know what I mean? Married a girl from here, right in Loveland. Um, Great people. Great player, can skate. I do believe this is a guy who finds a way to stick around here, and this is a guy that, when it's all said and done, he'll have played a couple games in Nashville, and might play his entirety of his NHL career in an Avs uniform.
Yeah, it's very
That's
possible.
my wish. That's my
But
wish.
we also thought Miko was going to play his entire career in an Avs uniform. So
Right? I
here we
know.
are.
I know.
The crystal ball is foggy at times, but I will say this: even in 2028, at that point, Nathan MacKinnon would be 32 and Cale Makar would be 29. 32, McKinnon's probably past his peak, but far from off the cliff of aging. So you believe in that, and Makar should be, if not right in his peak, maybe the immediately after the ultimate peak of his career. So, as we always say, with those two, the Avs got a chance. Whatever you build around them, it's pretty easy to believe in the Avs having opportunities over.
Hi, Rudo. Hi, Rudo.
Oh.
There he is.
Hi, Rudo.
Gotta fix my Chrome or something. There's got to be something wrong with it. Either way, as I was saying, with MacKinnon and Makar, even 3 years into the future, it's hard not to believe in the Avs having an opportunity. Now, it is going to matter what they build around them, but with those two at the core of the team, you believe they can get something done. I'll put it to you that way. We do have to.
I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that after we get back.
Perfect. Well, we'll hear what you have to say on the two big boys, but we do have some big bills to pay too. As we are brought to you by the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. Check it out. You're in the Toyota chat right now, chat. That's you. And this is brought to you by Toyota. Jump in with your Front Range Toyota stores. They have a vehicle for everyone, whether it be trucks like the Tundra, SUVs like the RAV4, or sedans like a Corolla. Whatever it is, Toyota has the vehicle for you, and it has four-wheel or all-wheel drive with 17 different models having that available, whether you like off-roading or you just want the extra traction on the sketchy roads. They've got you covered there. And they'll help out with your daily commute, too, with 16 different hybrid low-emission vehicles, more than any other automaker in the industry. So make sure you're getting over with Toyota and taking command of the road or the trail, whatever you're driving on today. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores, including AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevens Toyota East Aurora, and Stevens Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, not just the official vehicle of us here at DNVR, but the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche, too. Toyota, let's go places. And once you've got your Toyota to get you to your destination, I guess, look, live on the correct side of your job. If you travel the 9 to 5, the normal working hours, live west of your job. So I guess you don't want to do that. I guess live east of your job. You want to be driving west in the mornings if you live 9 to 5, so you don't drive into the sun. But if you're like me and you don't do that, and you live west of your job, but your job happens in the evenings, that's where Shady Rays comes into play. You get 35% off any polarized sunglasses. To get Shady Rays, head on over to shadyrays.com. Check out all of their hundreds of different styles. They have tons of amazing options. You can even change the polarization color on some of their sunglasses if that's your thing. But the best part about Shady Rays sunglasses, other than, being able to see, is you can get them for the first 30 days risk-free. You don't like them, you break them, you lose them, Shady Rays will replace them entirely for free, no questions asked. So jump in with Shady Rays today. Of course, you can get that fantastic deal with code DNVR where you get 35% off any pair of polarized sunglasses over at shadyrays.com. Try them for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. You've played your career with some of the best of the bests. What do you got to say about having those core superstars?
I go back to all the time as 1.0, right?
Yep.
And that's why, in my crystal ball, that's why I do see another Stanley Cup win, right? I do see, hopefully more than one. Because when you have two pieces like that, again, I'm going to use Sakic and Forsberg. Forget about Patty for a second. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about cornerstones, Makar and MacKinnon, right? Very similar. They win it in 22. A lot of people have been disappointed, including themselves, including us, right? The last few years. I do believe, and I'll say it like last year, I do believe this year coming up, they're going to be one of the favorites again. You have to. You have to when you have the way you're built with the two big boys. Go back to the Avalanche 1.0. There was the 96 one, and then, there was the 01 one. So you're talking about a 6-year span there. Maybe the 95 season they felt they were pretty good. And then maybe the 02, 03, maybe 2 more seasons realistically after you think you can win it all. right? Especially Solani, Korea. So there's been some misses, right? The 99, the 2000, that's a big miss, Dallas. You know what I mean? It's like they had the team to win it all. You know what I mean? So
I think
there's
it's
been some
safe to say
misses here.
last year feels like a miss, right? Like this past
That's my
season.
point. Yeah, and that's now I do feel that if they get the right ingredients, right? Because they got the recipe. They got to tweak it all around a little bit, and I think you tweak it with the ingredients. I do believe that there's success in the future of this franchise, with the age of the McKinnon, McCarr, and what they've built around it. So I do, in the crystal ball, see some success. I do feel they will get the success. I do feel that there's been some heavy disappointments. Uh, but the worst part is this is what I've learned from playing again with those guys and everything, because I never got to do it. But once you win it, you want more. You know what I mean? Once you taste it, you want more. And I do believe in McKinnon there and in McCarr there and that and Gabe and in that aspect of things. I do believe they want more. And that's something you can't teach. You just have to live it. So they've won. So that's why I say they know how to win. Have they slipped? Like, I mean, again, for me, last year so disappointing. Like, oh my God. Like for me, it's not even about the coaches. It's not even about the management. I'm gonna give it to the players there. Again, I was a player, so you know that you let it slip away. There's regrets there because too many guys run at the top of their game. You know what I mean? And you can't win in the playoffs. There's too many. Again, well, let alone like so many. If you have a couple guys that are not at the top of their game, it's hard to win. So they had too many guys not at the top of their game. Like I'll use Kale for example. Again, it's well documented. Joel talked about it. He just, he had a tough spring. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah,
again,
it was what it
we're
was.
we're just used to seeing the best player in the world, and he wasn't. And that's not me downplaying. He's still my favorite player. He's still the greatest player in the history of the NHL as a defenseman. And then when it's all said and done, he will be at the top of every category. That's not what I'm saying. But looking back at that 25 spring, wasn't his best. Not on purpose. It just happened that way. So I do feel that with the two cornerstones, I do feel down the stretch in a 3-year plan that we're talking about today, the Avalanche have to be at the conversations of favorites to start the seasons every year just because of those two guys.
Yeah, I agree. They have a chance with those two guys, and that's what leads me to our next segment, I suppose. We can talk about. Let's start with optimism. All right. I know I'm not always the most optimistic guy. I try to keep it pretty even keel, but sometimes I lean into pessimism. Next 3 years, what is the absolute tip optimistic angle on this? Certainly, they win at least one cup. Can you convince me that the peak optimism is the Avs win multiple cups over the next 3 years, E?
Uh, Man, I'm gonna say yes because me, I'm so optimistic about this team. I picked him to win last year, didn't get out of the first round. So what do I know? So I still believe that. Again, I'll pick them last year because I do believe they were. Oh God, they could have given the Panthers a nice run. Like I know we had picked. Remember, you had picked Panthers to win against the Avs, right?
I
So,
did. Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah. So again, man, you talk about a crystal ball. Man, it would be so nice to know in our dreams, like what would have happened. Um, I do believe. The answer, if you're telling me I have to answer yes or no, I would say yes. I would say yes because I'm so impressed by those two guys, right? And again, I'll say it again. I'm impressed by the front office and I'm impressed by the depth they have. Now I do believe they have a great goalie in Mackenzie Blackwood. So I think if you add it all up and with the misses, it gets you a little sharper, a little hungrier, a little bit more mad. So I do believe that way. The hunger factor will play a game, and I do believe that they lift the Stanley Cup. Now, not to piggyback again on Kyle, I just happened to see that tweet between our account. Was it you or our account? I don't remember who it was,
Yeah.
but
It was
and
our
him.
account,
And
but it was me. It was
it was
both.
our account. I didn't remember if it was your personal account or our
No,
account,
no, it
but
was us. Yeah.
yeah, I'm saying is, but I do agree with him. There is health, and then health
Yeah,
plays a
of
major
course. Of
factor.
course.
And that just goes for every team. We all know that, but we all know for the Avalanche, it's just been dog poo poo. right, on the health wise the last few years. So I don't like, but you always have to assume that health will be there. You cannot pretend that health won't be there. Only when you're trying to protect yourself. You protect yourself on depth in every position, obviously. But at the end of the day, you have to knock on wood and hope that you stay healthy. And then when you do that, this team's going to be deadly for a few years to come. Now, do I believe, like, the day you're asking me is 3 years? No, talk to me and go 5 years. I mean, I do believe there'll be a dip there because of all the reasons. And I go back to 1.0 too, same thing, right? The Cubbits are, the first round picks will at some point hurt you, right? I mean, it will hurt them at some point. But if you're asking me in that 3 year window, I'm pretty optimistic.
Yeah, I would put it this way. Excuse me. When you look 15 years from now, I think no matter what happens, people will be happy with this era. They have won a Stanley Cup already. So it's hard to argue with that. But 3 years from now, if we're sitting around and the Avs haven't won another Stanley Cup, I think it'll be disappointing in the moment that they weren't able to get that second one. Now, maybe they are able to squeak one out towards the back half of Nathan MacKinnon's career, and they get that second one eventually later than 3 years from now. But realistically, the next 3 years are their best shot to get a second cup in this era, barring crazy, crazy things happening. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say the Avs should be able to optimistically get another Stanley Cup over the next 3 years. Now, maybe they fail, but I think it's pretty easy to say that optimistically. I don't think you can ever predict a team to get 2 cups in 3 years. It does happen, but so much has to go right for you, like you mentioned, with health and intangibles and what happens around the league. I don't want to take Stanley Cup wins away from anyone, but does Tampa have 2 Stanley Cups if there isn't 2 shortened seasons? Who knows? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
These 2 Florida Cup runs are pretty unimpeachable, though, to be fair. So
Yeah.
there are those.
But not, you're saying like negative and positive. Like, you know what? Here's what I'll say if I can rephrase the words too. Like,
Yeah.
I said I'm pretty optimistic. I'm going to be like, I can just rephrase my words and say, in my mind, I'll be very disappointed if I don't
Yeah.
see one Stanley Cup in those years here in Denver. You know what I mean? And that's, you know what I mean? Instead of saying, oh, I'm pretty optimistic that they will win one, how about I say, I'll be very disappointed if they're, and I know that they will internally as well. Coaches, management,
Of
players,
course.
I think the goal is to win 3, right? Well, that's why I say I'll be disappointed if you don't see one. You know what I mean? I'll be really, really disappointed. Um, you know,
Yep.
which would lead to a lot of changes then. You know what I mean? Right? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Because
for
at the end
sure.
of the day, right? That's just the way it is in our business. So,
And
but which I don't foresee that.
that's the pessimistic view, right? Obviously, the Avs
Yeah.
win no cups, but look, I'm going to be realistic somewhat with my pessimistic view. Obviously, if Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar both get season-ending injuries, your season's screwed. That's over. But that's not something you can realistically predict. So with semi-reasonable health, even my most pessimistic stretch over this next 3 seasons is the Avs should be a perennial playoff team. They should make the playoffs. With MacKinnon and Makar, they are a playoff team with, barring icing a complete minor league team around them, they should pretty much make the playoffs every single year. Now, maybe they run into a Dallas team that they just can't beat in the first round again. Maybe they struggle to go on deep runs. Maybe it gets worse too. Maybe they're not even forcing game 7s. Maybe they lose a series in 5 or something. And that's where the pessimistic track comes in. At that point, if you do that for another couple of years, you can start to feel like the window is either rapidly closing or closed. And that's when you start to see heads roll when it comes to coaching staff, maybe even front office. You start to move on from a piece like a Val Nichushkin. Maybe you move on from a little bit earlier if you run into those struggles. And that's where it gets tough. If we see them struggle to make playoff runs, I would say even in the next 2 years, not the next 3, it could turn around pretty quickly in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and you and me are sitting right here in a chair, and we're not coaching the Avalanche. Now, if you were going to ask Bednar if he was on today, you'd be like, "Hey, Crystal Ball tells us that you're going to be in the playoffs," and he would tell you, "Hey, whoa, 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 you have to play 82 games," and. And I like the approach that they do take. You know what I
Of
mean? And
course.
and he never
That's the
wants to
approach you
take
need to
anything.
have to be
Yeah,
a team
you
that
have
good,
to
though.
have
Like,
it.
yeah.
Exactly. And again, we're not downplaying it. We're not saying that we're the biggest, as you know, as everyone knows on our channel here, Bednar fans and coaching staff fans, that, what I mean, I'm not taking anything away from them. It's masterful what they do. But we're just saying in a crystal ball, like, with what they have and what they have signed and who they have signed and who should stick around, like Val and not Val, but Mac and Kale. And I do believe those next 3 years, yes, they will make the playoffs. You know what I mean? And, to what extent? I'll say it again. I'll be disappointed if we don't see the silver thing. That's my view.
I don't I don't disagree. I think that's a perfect segue into the realistic look at this crystal ball. Are the Avs going to win 3 Stanley Cups? No. Are they going to
No.
win 2 Stanley Cups? No. Are they going to win 1 Stanley Cup? I'd at least give that a maybe. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it's very likely, but I think they have a pretty decent chance of winning 1 more Stanley Cup over the next 3 years. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that
and that and
you
that's the way I get disappointed.
yeah,
The
right,
comment that I'm
right.
saying.
I think that is a at least somewhat real expectation. Certainly, at very least, the Avs should have some deep playoff runs in the bag over the next 3 years. That is an entirely reasonable expectation with the team that they have, with the pieces that they have. You can expect that. And yeah, you can't predict if injuries derail things. You can't predict if something crazy happens. But where we sit today, the next 3 years would be a disappointment. Maybe if
And,
they don't win a Stanley Cup, at very least, if we don't see the Avs in the Western Conference Final at least once over the next 3 years, that's a pretty disappointing stretch.
and that's why compared to 1.0, for whoever in chat now is old enough to remember, or again, obviously euphoric moment, right? 96, 97. I'll stick to it. Absolutely burnt out. We were the best team. We were the better team. Burnt out 97. 98, stupidity. You blow a 3-1 lead in the series, you shouldn't be able to win the Stanley Cup. Absolutely stupid. You know what I mean? And in 99, not the right mix. They didn't have the right mix. That's the year I got traded, so I'll blame them. I can say them. I wasn't there. Not the right mix. 2000, what a disappointment. What a disappointment. You know what I mean? And then you learn from it, and in 01 you do it. So I think it's very similar, right? 22 is obviously the big moment. 23, I do believe they run out of gas a little bit with all the injuries all year long. It just seemed, you guys, you talked about it. It felt like a 6 years condensed into one. You know what I mean? And just to get there and even get the division title at the end, right? I think run out of gas there. And then after that, it was, I think for me, 2 disappointments. You know what I mean? I do believe it's 2 disappointments, and it just happens to be at the hand of the Dallas Stars that we like to dislike, and all that kind of stuff. But I do believe it sets up for next year, where all of a sudden the base is there, the foundation is there, the goaltending's there, the superstars there, your D's there, your MVP guys there. You know what I mean? Are they perfect? Are they built right now to go through it all? No, but I did believe that they were built to go through it all after the trade deadline, which was masterful last year. I did believe that they would go through it. But they didn't get out in the first round. You know what I mean? So a lot has to go into it, but I do believe that there's so many comparables to the Avalanche's, 1.0 to 2.0 that again, that's why I feel confident. I think you've seen the movie before, you've lived the movie before, you've acted in the movie before, and I think I'm talking about Joe here. You know what I mean? So as the leader of the boat, right? The captain of the boat. So I do believe that we're going to see another euphoric moment, and looking forward to it, because man, it would be a waste. Oh, it would be a waste. Come on.
Let's expand it then. We've shown some confidence in the Avs next 3 years. Let's take a look at the Central Division and some division rivals, and which
Yeah.
direction we think these teams are going to go over the next 3 years. We don't need to get into the weeds too much, but I'm going to run through a few of them. Dallas, arguably the best team in the Central, or at least 1-2 in the Central with the Avs right now. 3 years from now, Sagan's likely retired. Ben's likely retired. Matt Duchene could be retiring or at the very end of his career. There's going to be a decent amount of turnover. They do have some young talent. Can they realistically expect to be in a cup window 3 years from now, or is that something that might fall off?
Well, I mean, again, I do like their goalie. So for me, that is a huge piece of the foundation. So I do like Ottinger. Not because he's a terrier, but because he's a good goalie. Obviously, Wyatt Johnson signed long term, right? Robertson, is he going to be there? He sounds like there's a little bit of, again, there's a lot of talk with this guy,
Yeah.
right? Since last year. Is he going to get traded? Are they unhappy? Again, was that Pete DeBoer unhappy with him? Is it going to be like that with the new coaching staff? I don't know. So I think there's a lot of question marks there. Obviously, they got their stud. Let's not kid ourselves. Heiskanen is a stud. You know what I mean? So they do have, again, the ascension of Maverick Bork. Is he going to take that step? Is he, not to get into deep, like you said, but how's Miko going to be there long term, right? Is Miko going to be more the Miko we saw here over the years, or are you going to see the Miko that scored one 5-on-5 goal in 30 games there, or whatever it was, right? I don't know. Again, I love Miko, not here to bash Miko. I'm saying, so yeah, there's a lot of unknown there. I wouldn't be there to say, I wouldn't be here. Again, I tip my hat. They beat the Avs fair and square. Again, they must have been pretty good because I thought the Avalanche were built for it all. So, but to say that I'm in love with the Dallas Stars, I can't say that. And I can't. I don't see the brightest future in my book. Just don't see it.
I would say the Dallas Stars are a team that it feels like they're a lot closer to missing their window than the Avs are right now.
Yeah.
If the
I
Avs have
totally
a
agree with
couple
that.
of conference finals exits over the next couple of years, that's where it feels like the Dallas Stars are right now. Now, their up and coming stars could replace that. They could go on great runs, all possible. But I feel they're closer to the shut window than the Avs are, despite them beating the Avs every year in the playoffs. So it is what it is. St. Louis, a team that seems eternally stuck in the Calgary zone at this point in their career. They have a number of players signed that are very good, but probably not considered in the elite of the league. And they don't have any true stars coming up in their system. So I don't know that we need to touch on them a ton. Chicago, will they have turned the corner in their franchise by then? Obviously, you have some high-end talent at the top, but can they get to a quality organization? Maybe. It doesn't look like this year's going to go super well for them. I'll put it to you that way.
Again, just quickly compare them to the bad Nordiques back then, right? A
Yeah.
lot of good ingredients. Can they find the recipe? Can they find the recipe to get them out of their mediocrity, like of the bad? You know what I mean? Like, so it's one thing to have good players. It's another thing to have the recipe to win. So time will tell. But yeah, they could be dangerous if they find the right recipe.
Minnesota, maybe the most interesting team. They're a team that have felt like have been on the precipice of taking that next step. Obviously, they have a guy like Kaprizov at the top. They have a very well put together defensive core, even if they don't have any true superstars there. And then they're finally free of the $14 million in dead cap that they've been dealing with. So there is
Some hope.
As much as I hate to say it, I think upward trajectory movement, Minnesota might have the most room in the Central Division over the next 3 years.
And the one thing I have to give them to is Billy Guerin. I do believe he knows how to have the right recipe to win. Having won as a player, having won in Pittsburgh in management, I do believe Billy's a big piece of their uh, obviously their management, but I think of their culture there. You know what I mean? I do think that that's why he's in the game. I think he's tasted it as a player. He's tasted it as an assistant in Pittsburgh multiple times. Um, Actually, He's won two as a player. He won in Pittsburgh too, right? And he won in management as well. But he won in Jersey back then too, like his first couple years in the league. But so yeah, I do believe that's a big ace in the hole there for the Minnesota Wild. You know what I mean? And Yeah, I again, Kaprizov, one of the most elite players in the league. Where does that take you? I don't know, but they got some, big number 12 there. What's his name? The kid I love there. Man, I'm having a blank here. Um,
Rossi, Faber. I don't know who number
no,
12
no,
is.
the
I'd have
big
to,
forward there that I like. Oh my God,
uh,
this is embarrassing.
good player, bad player.
No, no,
Let's just
great
look it.
player.
I'll just look it up.
Look him up. Look him up. Who's the big fella that I like? Number 12. Good player. BC went to BC, right? Their first round pick a couple years back.
Oh,
Big
Boldy.
piece of the rock. Yeah, Matt Boldy.
He's
God,
not that
I'm gonna.
big. He's not that big. He's only like 6'2".
I well, yeah. I mean, he's not 5'8". Um.
You just watch
So
too
yeah,
many
I mean, I
Avs hockey
do.
games.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I do like the wild trajectory right now. I do. I do.
All right. I would agree. A couple of other things. Winnipeg. I feel similarly to the way I do about St. Louis with them. Obviously, they have the unbelievable regular season goaltending, but it does feel like a lot of their pieces have past their primes. Obviously, they lose Ehlers this offseason. Their center depth is an issue unless Jonathan Toews has a resurrection, basically, of his career.
Yeah.
They feel like a team on a downward trajectory. I'll put it to you that way. And then Nashville had the disaster of a season. Are they better than they were last season? Yes, I believe that. But they have a massive, massive aging issue that is going to smack them in the face, which makes it hard for me to see them being a truly successful team over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I like is they tried, right? They swung. Barry
Yeah,
Trotz
they
swung. It
swung.
didn't work out. And when it doesn't work out, then you got some cleaning up to do. You know what I mean? And it makes it a little difficult. I think this is the stage they're at right now.
They might need a giant dumpster for the cleanup they have ahead of them. It's a tough
Sometimes you
one.
do. Yeah.
All right. I wanna wrap up the show with this concisely. It's October 1st, 2028. Rank the 3 best teams in the Central Division.
October 1st, 2028. So this is 25 right now, 26. So after 3 seasons,
Yep.
I'm going to go like this. God, people are going to be mad at me right now. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go Minnesota. I think Chicago finds a way.
Okay.
And I think the Avs will be in that window of just hanging on right now and try, you know what I mean? Like, and that
Sure.
would be my 3. That's my 3 right there.
All right. I have a
So
very
please don't
different
hate me.
3.
Please
I'll
don't
be
hate me.
I'll be the homer. Number 1, Colorado Avalanche. A 41-year-old
All right.
Sidney Crosby is going for his 4th cup.
All right. All right.
Number 2, I actually agree with you on Minnesota. I'll give you that one. I think they have the best trajectory out there. And then number 3, I hate to do it, but I'm going to say Dallas. They just have the devil magic that finds a way to keep them
All
perennially
right.
successful. So there you
All
go.
right.
There's
A
our
little different. Not, it's different. Not bad.
yeah, it's a little
Not bad.
bit. I just refuse to give Chicago any credit. Mostly, that's.
I
But
can't believe I did. I was like, at some point they will. It's like the Sabres, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
Chicago at least has a more recent track record
Yeah.
of success than the
Yeah.
Sabres
It does.
do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but there you go.
Yeah.
Those are our 3 picks for 3 years from now that will no doubt be incredibly wrong. But that's the fun of peering into the crystal ball. You got to have a
Why
little bit of
not?
fun and lean in. I do think, though, I don't think you would run into many people that believe the Avs fans are going to be struggling 3 years from now. They might not be one of the best teams in the league, but I don't think there'd be many people that say, yeah, they should be missing the playoffs in 2028. So
That's why I was going by my, Avalanche 1.0, like kind of like 03, 04, and then you just, still decent, but like, are they really going to win it all? You know what I mean? That's kind of,
I think that's fair.
that's the angle I was playing. That's the angle I'm playing.
Definitely a potential outcome 3 years from now, which, hey, all the more reason to get it done now. Win that next cup immediately if you can. You never know what the
Yes.
future has in store. So we'll see. Obviously, we can't teleport 3 years in the future, nor do I want to. I do want to teleport to October of this year, though, so the season can get started. We appreciate y'all. We're going to wrap up today's show. Keep it liked, subscribed here. Again, go watch that trade tree video I made, please. I would really appreciate it. I know a lot of you love those, but it's got to get a lot of views so I can make more. I want to do the Ryan O'Reilly trade. I know you all want to watch that, so go do that. That's it for today. This has been the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, and we will see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.